You are listening to the Vegan Body Coach podcast, all about optimizing your strength, fitness, and physique through a plant-focused diet. My name is Jackson Burton, and I'm a nutrition and training coach for vegans, the plant-centric, and plant-curious. I'm sitting down with athletes, experts, and influencers around the world to inspire you to create your best vegan body yet. Jacob, my man, welcome to the Vegan Body Coach podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a privilege.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have a good chat with you today.
Yep.
And I think we initially met at UEBC 2018.
Yep.
And it was quite funny because I think you found out I was vegan.
Yeah, I heard you say
something
something about it and I was like, what the hell, man?
Wait, there's a vegan here?
That's my niche.
Yeah. And for the listeners, the UEBC is the Ultimate Evidence-Based Conference held in Melbourne each year by the JPS crew, where they get a whole bunch of, top minds in the industry to come together and present. And myself and Jacob went along to the first year. Yeah. And it was pretty fun. And it was cool to have another vegan there. But I remember you saying to me specifically, like, get out of my niche, bro.
Yeah. There's only room for one.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a change.
Yeah, so we sort of met then and then sort of been hanging out ever since and sort of getting some training sessions in and
it's good. Yeah.
Eating some good food. So it's good to catch up and have a little bit more of a deeper chat about some things that are going to help our listeners in relation to nutrition. And obviously you're a plant-based dietitian.
Yeah.
So a little deeper dive into some of the nutrient stuff today will be awesome. But one of the initial questions is, what led you to become first of all, a plant-based dietitian? Like, where did you get to?
Yeah. Well, I was already a dietitian. I'd been to uni to study nutrition and dietetics for 4 years, and then graduated, and was kind of not really sure exactly where I wanted to go with my career and where I wanted to work. I didn't really want to go down the standard route of working in a hospital or standard private practice. And it was not till a few years after I graduated, or a couple of years after I graduated, that I really put in the work to start my own business. And it was a similar time in my life where I had moved out of home and come to Melbourne, north side of Melbourne as well. There's quite a big sort of plant-based community here. And, it was just engaging in conversations with my friends. I think I ended up watching a documentary, as odd as that sounds, but that's what a lot of people do.
Yep.
It sort of helps them see a different point of view. But being, quite a scientific based person and a critical thinker, typically with documentaries I'm quite skeptical. But this was about, I think it was Cowspiracy or something, the first one I watched, or maybe Before the Flood. It was a just environmentally focused documentary. And in terms of environmental science, it's not really my forte. I'm a nutrition and health science person by education, by background. But, it just sort of talked about the impacts of humans and our inputs to, damaging the ozone layer and damaging the environment in terms of our land use, CO2 emissions, and about climate change and global warming and all these sorts of things. And the first time in my life I'd heard that animal agriculture has an impact on that, and that's the main thing that sort of drove me to start being more conscious of my actions. Considering that I was thinking I was more environmentally aware or environmentally focused, I realized that what we eat and eat as a society is having a huge impact. So that's what led me down that path. And then being involved in the nutrition space, I looked more into is it an adequate diet? Can you still be involved in fitness? Have muscle building goals and all that sort of thing. And will you still be able to get enough protein and all of these extra nutrients, B12, zinc, iron, all that sort of stuff? And I looked into it, and there's a lot of people out there that are in that space, and a lot of research and stuff in that area showing that it is not only a adequate diet, but it's potentially a healthier alternative when it comes to certain chronic disease and stuff like that. So I guess that's the main thing was environmental, and then just being in the space, I found my own sort of skill set and being able to communicate that nutrition information to people that they need.
Yeah, for sure. So you were already a dietitian at the time when you started making that change?
Yeah.
What year was this?
Start of 2018.
Okay, cool.
I think so. Years.
So how did you find the how did you initially hear about anything to do with plant-based?
One of my friends was watching a documentary. A couple of my friends were already vegetarian, and then we watched the documentary, and it was Leonardo DiCaprio who was talking about it.
Right.
And,
yeah.
I guess.
I think that's the Before the Flood one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, but it's got one section. It's kind of like focused on animal agriculture.
Okay.
And then I watched Cowspiracy as well.
Right.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
And then
So it sort of sparked the interest.
And then I looked more into papers and stuff, and the Eat Lancet and that sort of thing. That is more of a scientific focused paper that discusses the same things, not so much a documentary.
Okay. Yeah. So did you grow up with like a keen interest in environmental issues? Because obviously that was a thing that sparked the interest early on, was I want to change for the environment.
Not really. It was mainly, I think, when I went like traveling and backpacking around the world and was doing all this hiking and things like that. That sort of maybe grew an appreciation for the world and the natural environment.
Yeah.
I was never like super into that sort of stuff as a kid. I was pretty oblivious to everything going on around me. I was just sort of living my own life and in my own lane.
Kids,
yeah.
So you mentioned before about the Eat Lancet and things like that. What stemmed you to actually dive deeper into the scientific perspective, or the evidence-based perspective of this? Like, most people might watch Cowspiracy or whatever and be like, cool, I'll change my diet, boom, don't need anything else. But you had obviously gone through university already.
Yeah.
So was it that was like, oh, I need to look into this deeper because I've been taught a certain thing at university through dietetics?
And I've always been, a more skeptic and science-based person, especially in the nutrition space, where there's a lot of different sort of camps and fields that promote a certain one-sided message or more biased message. I guess I take that sort of mentality into all aspects of life and of the world, as being skeptic and looking further into things, and rather than taking them at face value and just listening to what somebody says. So that's why I was like, if I was going to talk about this sort of thing, or eat this certain way, or I could start doing these certain things, I want to make sure that I'm doing it from a place where it actually makes sense, and it actually has something backing behind it, rather than just taking what a documentary says or what a certain person says and taking it as fact. Yeah,
it's an amazing perspective to have, especially early on. Let's talk a little bit about the general nutritional approach that is sort of blanketly thrown out through the dietetics degree. What are some of the underpinning sort of foundations of what they are sort of promoting as a healthy diet for the general population?
Yeah, so the dietitians across the world are the nutrition leaders when it comes to health and nutrition, and being the most educated and the most qualified in that area. They do promote healthy eating guidelines, which are sort of national guidelines that are set by huge teams of researchers that do look into tens of thousands of papers. They have people working on different nutrients in different areas of health, and it's quite similar. It is a more plant-based diet than what the typical person eats, and being multiple servings of vegetables and fruits, and including legumes and grains and all these sort of healthy whole food plant-based items. But they still do include or promote animal products as well, in terms of they do in some diets they can provide value for nutritional value for certain minerals and vitamins and things like that, being dairy being a source of calcium, and meat being a source of iron and zinc and B12. But I guess there's a bit of a misconception where they say that people misconstrue that as you need those things to get those nutrients, which is just not the case.
Yeah, cool. So you've obviously dived far deeper into how you can get those nutrients now as a plant-based dietitian. And you're not only working with only plant-based people, though, are you? You're working with a wide variety of people.
Yeah.
So is it sort of a general rule of thumb for you to, when you're working with someone who's not plant-based or wanting to transition, that you're trying to include as much plants as possible in your advice for them?
Sort of. It's very specific. When you depends on the areas you work. I work in some more rural areas with a different sort of socioeconomic class, different levels of education around nutrition, and sometimes it's literally just working on very simple steps to get these people eating a healthier diet. It's generally it's going to be lacking in plants, and that'll be the main thing. But there's people that are that you're working with that are sort of a long way away from going fully plant-based, or even getting towards a point of a more healthy eating pattern. So, you take sort of small steps at a time. You might be increasing vegetable consumption, decreasing processed food consumption, that sort of thing. It's normally just trying to find things that work very simply for an individual, because, when you start working in the field and working with real people, you realize there's only so much you can achieve with, consultations and changing these people's lives who have, developed habits over decades. You can't can't flip the switch in most of these people.
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole trick of doing our kind of line of work is, trying to push through habits and, things that people have just been ingrained into their lives over, decades pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So it's trying to find the low hanging fruit and
exactly.
try to help them where you can, and some of that stuff's just the easy, simple stuff. But I know you do a lot of online consultations for specifically just plant-based people, right?
Yeah.
So now that you've been doing that for a little while now, you've been in the game a little while, have you, what are some of the biggest sort of maybe myths and misconceptions that you've found in relation to either transitioning to a plant-based diet or people that have been on a plant-based diet and they're confused about certain things?
Yeah. So what are the misconceptions of people who are eating plant-based?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of sort of conflicting information online and in the space where people are unsure of which things they need to pay attention to, and some people will almost become defensive of veganism or eating plant-based when you mention supplementation or eating specific foods. They'll say that that's kind of attacking the diet, but there are certain nutrients that you do have to pay a bit more attention to. B12 supplementation is a big one. Some people use a lot of people that whenever you talk about B12 on the online space, people will say, you don't need a supplement. The body's stores will last. You can get it from certain plant foods, and the science to date shows that there are no plant foods that contain enough B12 or enough active B12 to keep your stores up to date. So you need to be including a supplement or fortified foods. And you might not necessarily run into problems in the first 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, but it could be 10 years down the track. We encounter some pretty serious consequences if you don't have adequate B12 in your diet. And then there's just a couple of things that sort of are probably worth paying attention to when it comes to omega-3s, calcium, and potentially iron and zinc, depending on the person. If they're prone to having low iron, then it's something they should pay a bit more attention to. But they're not all vegan specific or plant-based specific issues. If anybody's not including adequate sources of certain nutrients, then they need to adapt their diet and change their dietary patterns to include those nutrients. So I guess those are the main things. And a lot of people, the general population aren't aware of what nutrients are, or they don't know what micronutrients are. Right. They don't know what omega-3s are. They don't know what calcium is, iron or zinc. I'm sure a lot of your listeners will probably know those things if they're a bit more interested in nutrition. But, a lot of the time when I'm working with people that want a bit more education, it's sort of sometimes introducing those concepts to them and just making sure they're including sources of those nutrients. Plant-based sources are available, but you still have to include them. Right.
Yeah. I think sometimes, especially with things like Instagram and pages like yours and others that are, specifically all about plant-based nutrition, you can get very deep into the woods with picking apart certain nutrients, micronutrients, minerals, vitamins, and ensuring that we all have this well-rounded, balanced diet, and we're getting all these different things, and we're trying to break it down to the most minute level. Sometimes I feel like it's really overkill, and I don't know if you feel the same, but it's a case of, okay, look, there's some foundations of a healthy plant-based diet that are going to ensure you have
99% of the boxes ticked.
Absolutely, so, and then when we're trying to dive so deep into these minute little things around micronutrients and things like that, I think sometimes it probably does just confuse people and maybe make it too much of a science that it's it's just too hard. I'll just go back to eating dairy and meat where I know what I'm getting because it's things we've already done. It's their safety, right? Do you find that's the case? And what do you think, I guess, maybe are the pillars of a healthy plant-based diet that are going to ensure that most of your bases are covered?
I think it's just, I guess, having a adequate variety and quantity of plant-based food in your diet. That's the main thing, is just not restricting the plant-based diet any further than it should be. You should be eating all the different sorts of plant-based foods, legumes, grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds even. But as long as you are including those and you're sort of putting a bit of thought into how do you structure a meal, you include a plant protein, you include a good source of grains or carbohydrates, and you include a variety of vegetables, then you're probably going to be ticking 99% of those boxes. When it comes to the minutiae of is this certain nutrient going to be at risk, that I guess is a small issue that you can sort of deal with after you've built that healthy foundation. Most of the time when I work with people that are first getting involved in it, I keep it very simple. We don't sometimes I mentioned to take a B12 supplement, and then you sort of try to build some like healthier habits and get a bit more of an idea of what goes into a meal and how to eat in a way that's going to include a lot of those different plant-based foods.
Yeah. I think even I actually had a read through one of your guys' ebooks. I can't remember which one it was called. It was the one around health anyway.
Yeah.
And I quite like the plate model you guys describe in the book, which is essentially saying what you just said. It's like, okay, you choose a plant-based protein, and you build your meal around that. You're including tons of different variety of whether it's green veggies or whether it's starchy veggies, or adding some seeds or adding some nuts, having a bit of healthy plant-based fats in there. But you've got this plant-based, you've got this plate model in front of you that you build every meal around. And if you do that consistently long term, you're going to get most of what you need from it. But I think one of the biggest problems people have is when they decide to transition and they don't know a lot about nutrition. They've come from a diet where every meal is focused on a protein source. So most meals are built around the meat.
Yeah.
They take that away and suddenly they're eating a meal that's almost void of protein, but not void of protein only, but void of the other nutrients you're going to get with a plant-based protein source, like your iron and your calcium and things like that. And they end up just having like a salad with, like, I don't know, nothing in it, right? Yeah. Whereas I like to really promote, hey, look, let's still build a plate around a protein source. And it's going to be a plant. It's going to be tofu, tempeh. It's going to be chickpeas. It's going to be whatever, right? Yeah. But I think that's a big lacking point, But the plant-based, the plate model works really well.
Yeah, and that's what you see with, in practice. You see people that have, especially people that are maybe teenagers or still living at home, where their parents are cooking meals for them. They might be especially in Australia, like meat and 3 veg is a pretty common way of people setting up a meal, and then when a child or a younger person goes plant-based or vegetarian or vegan, their parents will sort of just take away the steak and be left with just the vegetables. And that happens sometimes. Some people will have who have a bit more know-how will replace that protein, but other people will just be left eating, like you said, just the salad or just the vegetables. And there's a lot of nutrients that you sort of need to replace that were coming from those animal sources.
So let's do a quick recap on sort of maybe like the top 5 nutrients that people probably need to optimize if they're going to transition, or they are currently plant-based anyway, but they want to make sure that their training doesn't take a hit and their energy doesn't take a hit, right? So they want to make sure that they're getting enough to recover and train well, perform well, and still have energy to do, because often people throw out, oh, you go vegan, you'll lose your energy, right? You'll tank, you'll be, because proteins, your meat's where you get your energy. Yeah. So maybe like, some of the top 5 nutrients that people need to just, implement in their diet to ensure that they're still able to maintain those higher energy levels.
Yeah. If you're an athlete, I guess, replacing protein. And when it comes to if you are already an athlete or someone who engages in weight training, replacing those sources of protein with suitable replacements. So protein would be one. Creatine is useful. I don't think it's essential when it comes to health or even making gains, but there's definitely enough science to show that it's beneficial. And then just like you said, like a total amount of calories and energy, especially if people go for like a strict sort of whole foods plant-based diet, they may not be aware that they're eating far less calories than they were eating before. So making sure that they're including carbohydrates and healthy fats, just to make sure they're getting in their energy needs. So they might seem pretty simple, but make sure you're hitting those big three nutrients: proteins, carbs, and fats. Because if you're under eating energy, you're going to be feeling it before sooner or later. Then I guess for performance, just there's only so much more you need to focus on. With probably creatine, potentially. Depending on the type of athlete you are, you might need to pay a bit more attention to iron if you're like more of an endurance athlete. Okay. But that would probably be it from an athletic point of view. As long as you're following a pretty good variety and quantities of certain foods in your diet, and you're meeting your energy needs. Then you're definitely and you're paying a bit more attention to protein, maybe including a protein shake, or focusing on more like tofu, tempeh, and those higher protein sorts of plant foods. Then you're probably going to be getting more than enough.
Yeah. I feel like iron is one of those ones that a lot of, especially women, worry about when they, decide to eat only plants. Like, where am I getting my iron? I've already got iron. I've already got low iron. I've been tested for it, things like that. Do you recommend they just take a supplement, or are there specific foods that you would bring up and say, hey, look, these are the foods you need to be including every day?
Yeah. So normally supplementations have their value, because it's definitely the fastest way to correct low iron stores. Obviously you can supplement higher doses of iron, and your body's going to take that in and replenish those depleted stores. So that's normally the first point of call if somebody has an iron deficiency or are on the low side. But when it comes to food, you have to make sure that they're including iron-rich food, so they don't just run into problems again. And we do normally talk about it's more making sure they're having adequate servings of legumes and grains, and then a couple of things. If they're running into issues with iron, you might look at things that can sort of boost the absorption of iron, or reduce the absorption of iron, and making sure you're sort of mitigating those things. So that's adding vitamin C to a iron rich meal will improve the absorption, and then avoiding calcium with iron rich meals, and avoiding like tea and coffee because of the tannins in those things. It's not the caffeine, it's the tannins in those that sort of bind with the iron and stop it from being absorbed. So those are things that you go through with people, and sometimes it's a matter of making sure they're choosing iron fortified products. So even things like Weet-bix, I don't know what you call them in New Zealand.
Yeah, right.
Weet-bix, they're actually pretty high in iron, and then maybe choosing a certain bread that's more iron fortified than others, just to help them increase their iron intake through simple means, without having to change their dietary patterns. A lot.
Those are some really good ones. It's including the vitamin C at meals. So vitamin C can be citrus fruits, but it could be bell peppers and things like that. Good vitamin C. Capsicum. Exactly.
You call them bell peppers?
No, I don't, but Americans do. So we'll keep it a little more generic. That's a really good point. And then the tannins in the coffee and the tea, I think the recommendation is only trying to consume those outside of an hour either side of that meal, right? So if you're having a meal that's high in iron, if you want to maximize the absorption and not limit the absorption, reducing tea and coffee to maybe an hour after the meal. And I don't normally it's not like if you're going out for brunch on a weekend and you're going to have a coffee with your meal, it's a 1 or 2 meals a week. It's fine, whatever. You're getting a lot of iron. You're eating 21 meals a week or whatever. As long as 90% of those are you're not drinking coffee with every breakfast or having a tea with every meal, you're going to be fine. Yeah, cool. All right, let's put this together. And do you want to run through just a quick sample day of eating, right? So like someone who wants to meet all their targets, and we know that variety across the week is super important, but within like one day, what would be some sort of generic meals that someone could include?
A typical day, for breakfast, we'll start with that first meal of the day. Try to include some grains. So it could be cereal, a good whole grain cereal. Could be oats. Could be making a smoothie with some oats in there as well. Making sure that you're having those whole grains, which are going to provide lots of iron, also a bit of protein and other micronutrients. And then I think it's pretty important to include a calcium fortified plant milk. So it could be soy milk, could be almond milk. Just make sure it's calcium fortified, because you're going to get a good portion of your daily serving of calcium. And then maybe including some fruit or vegetables, depending on if you're going for a cereal or if you're going to go for a more savoury breakfast. But including just some berries or half a banana or a piece of fruit or whatever, just to sort of get some food in the start of the day. And breakfast is also a time for people who are paying a bit more attention, where you can include maybe some flax or chia seeds for their omega-3 content. So that's pretty much all that I'd sort of tick the boxes for in breakfast. So grains, calcium fortified milk, some fruit, or maybe some vegetables if you're going a savoury route, and then a flax or chia seed.
Yeah, perfect.
And if you want to make a savoury breakfast, you could go for like a tofu scramble.
Yeah.
Because tofu as well is going to be providing a lot of calcium, because tofu is normally made with a calcium salt.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's another route. Yeah. Tofu scramble, whole grain bread, maybe some tomatoes, baby spinach, mushrooms, something in the pan with it.
So that's a good like savory option, and then you've got maybe the more grain based option with like say oats with the chia and the flaxseed and some blueberries, and you're gonna get you cover most of your bases there.
Yeah,
cool.
And then for lunch and dinner, just follow a similar sort of structure that we were talking about before, the plate model. So pick a plant based protein. Could be tofu, tempeh, chickpeas, lentils, any kind of legume. Sort of make that a staple in every lunch and dinner. Not just for the protein, but they contain a lot of those minerals and vitamins as well. So including those, so that's going to be 1/4 of the plate. And then you're going to be including type of carbohydrate. Could be grains again. Could be starchy vegetables like potato or sweet potato. Could be a grain like rice or pasta, or if you're going to get fancy with like some fricka or barley or whatever, whatever tickles your fancy. And then just try to include a few different vegetables in there. So it could be 2 or 3 different vegetables, as many as you want, making either salad or some stir-fried vegetables, or if you're going to make a pasta dish or a rice dish, just include, try to make, a good portion of that meal coming from vegetables. And then, you could also add some healthy fats with an avocado or nuts or seeds or whatever, something like that if you want.
Yeah.
But as long as you're ticking that protein, grains or starchy veg, and then a variety of veg, that's the main things that you want to structure. And then same goes with dinner. And then when it comes to having some snacks, try to make most of your snacks something nutritious. You're better off getting something that's coming from a whole plant food, like some veggie sticks and hummus, or some whole grain crackers and hummus, or maybe some fruits, nuts, seeds, like a trail mix type of thing. Try to make those sort of most of your meals, so you're getting some more nutrition there rather than just getting some empty calories from more processed foods. Like whatever, donuts, biscuits, cookies.
They're good stuff.
They're fine to include. They're fine to include, but if that's the majority of your snacks, you're going to be missing out on nutrients.
You shouldn't be having
overeating
a donut for every snack that you have, right? Yeah, for sure.
80-20 rule.
That's right.
80% of the time, just eat healthy, whole food, nutritious foods. And 20% of the time, eat whatever the hell you want.
That's right. I love it, man. That's awesome.
That's pretty much the main things.
Yeah.
Breakfast, following that structure. Lunch, following the similar structure, and then trying to have most of your snacks based around healthy, nutritious foods.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's relatively simple, but it's just having a little bit more knowledge about certain things to include to help hit certain nutrient targets, like your flaxseed and your chia and your fortified milks, and then ensuring a variety in vegetables is super important as well. Nice sort of simple layout there for a sample day of eating.
Yeah.
Do you eat like that yourself?
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah,
definitely. Sometimes breakfast is just a couple of Weet-bix, soy milk and a banana.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I actually haven't had Weet-bix in ages, but it's actually
we can make some after this.
let's do a Weet-bix challenge. Are you still doing food challenges?
No, I've only done the 2: the potato eating challenge and the orange eating challenge.
Orange, which was worse.
Potato.
Really? Yeah.
Definitely sticking it. We set an hour time limit for the eating challenge, which is too long to be eating as much as you can.
Yes.
And with the oranges, we said 15 minutes. So
okay, yeah. And potato is the number one most satiating food in the world. So you would have been rather full.
Yeah. It was just like it couldn't eat more.
Yeah.
You just couldn't.
I feel like a Weet-bix eating challenge would be also very difficult just because of you're stacking in so much fiber, you're stacking in so much complex carbohydrates, and it would just get so dry, and you'd have to add so much milk, That'd be epic. We actually growing up in New Zealand, it was always I don't know if you had this in Australia as well, but it was always the Kiwi kids, Weet-bix kids stuff, and there'd be it would be this advert around how many can you do.
Yeah, we had that as well.
You had that, and it was always New Zealand rugby players and stuff.
Yeah, we had
and it was
Australian cricket players. And stuff,
okay. They just rolled that out across each nation.
Yeah.
But it was how many can you do? And then you go to school and compete with your friends on how many Weet-bix you had.
Do you remember how many you ever did?
I don't know, it's probably like 8. I think.
Yeah, I think 8 or something.
Yeah, it's
one of
probably
my
okay.
housemates, one of my friends has done like 15 before.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive.
I reckon I could crush it now,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like, I might
Right
go
now?
home and buy a big box of Weet-bix.
Is the
and
end of
just
this
go for
podcast
it.
going to feature a DVD competition?
just all Weet-bix.
I've seen people on YouTube have a whole box.
Oh, yeah?
Pretty insane, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Epic.
Hungry Hado.
They're actually not bad to add to smoothies as well,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
they're good,
I used
yeah.
to do that years ago. Just add a couple of Weet-bix to a smoothie. Adds a lot of fiber, adds a lot of good carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I said, there's iron.
It's iron and protein and
Yeah.
nutritious whole grain.
There you
I
go.
think, yeah,
There you
98% whole
go.
grain or whatever. So yeah.
Americans need to get on the Weet-bix, right?
They get so weirded out by them. I think I've seen Kevin Hart pull out a Weet-bix and be like, "What the hell is it?"
Yeah, I think
It's
even
like a brick.
I think Justin Bieber did the same thing too when he came to
Yeah.
New Zealand. They like got him on some show, and they were like showing him a Weet-bix,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I'm not eating that." It's like,
You need to get a producer like Joe Rogan so he can bring out these clips during the podcast.
yeah, there you go,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, we'll go the Justin Bieber on the wall eating a Weet-bix. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next point. This one's kind of important. I wanna bring this up, and I wanna go into it a little more deeply than most people do. And you did a really good video on your Instagram and your YouTube a little while ago, all in relation to soy.
Yeah.
And as a fellow soy boy, we like to eat a little bit of soy, right? And
A little bit, a lot of
just
it.
a little bit, yeah. And I'm all for soy products, tofu, tempeh, soy milk, some of the soy-based fake meats, mock meats.
Edamame.
Oh, edamame. Can't forget the edamame. I love it. So, and for me, it's a great way to get protein. There's a bunch of other nutrients that are involved in that, but there's still these huge myths and, a massive amount of like sort of old wives' tales around soy giving you man boobs, soy changing your hormones. I even, this was even brought up to me by my own mum telling me to stop eating so much soy. And it's just passed down. Like her grandfather was against soy, and it's just been passed down from generation to generation. Whether it's from marketing or whatever's been going around about soy, right? But let's dive into that and let's sort of dispel some myths around that, man. Like, does soy affect hormones?
No.
Done.
No.
All right, let's move on.
Well, it's really strange because when looking more into the science of things, I tried to find where these sorts of things came from.
Yep.
And I don't know how they're so widespread, these sort of misconceptions around soy, because there's no studies to show any of these effects. And it's just, I don't know how they got put forth throughout. Everyone seems to have an opinion about soy. Most people thinking it's harmful or estrogenic, or like going to give you feminizing effects. But then when you look into the science, soy has been studied pretty extensively, and we can link an article or whatever, but there's a pretty comprehensive review that looks at soy's effects on health and how it impacts health outcomes in terms of risk of certain diseases and things like that. And they've included all of the studies that they've done looking at soy intake and its effect on hormones. And every study done to date has shown that it has no impact on testosterone, and that is because they're called phytoestrogens in soy, and they're also in lots of other foods as well. It's not just soy.
Okay.
Soy particularly has the highest compared to other foods, but they're just molecules that sort of replicate. They look similar, have a similar molecular structure to estrogen.
Right.
There's a few different things, a few different aspects of the molecule that are different. And if you know anything about chemistry, it only takes one extra different element or atom in a molecule to completely change out, affecting the body. And soy does not impact. Phytoestrogens from soy interact completely differently in the body when you compare them to mammalian estrogen.
Right.
They don't have the same effects. They don't bind to the same estrogen receptors. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, estrogen, there's two different receptors, alpha and beta estrogen receptors.
Right.
Estrogen from the hormone estrogen, the human hormone or animal hormone estrogen binds to both receptors.
Okay.
But the different receptors have different effects. And when you look at phytoestrogens, they only bind to one of the receptors, and the effects of binding to this other receptor are actually can be opposing to the effects of estrogen binding to both receptors. So that's why you see a lot of people with like certain cancers, like breast cancer and ovarian cancer and things like that, have been told to stay away from estrogen. But when you look at the studies, when you look at soy intake and compare it to how rates of disease develop in people with higher intakes of soy, it seems to have a protective effect. So soy actually has protective effects against breast cancer, prostate cancer, different types of cancer, also type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So it seems to be improving health. And when you look at it from just a nutrition standpoint, in terms of the nutritional value, super high in protein, also zinc and iron and these critical micronutrients that typically people would also get from animal products. So it's a really good substitute for animal products. And then when you look at tofu itself, tofu is a block of blended up soybeans pretty much. You look at how they make that, they actually add calcium. Just by chance, it happens to be another critical nutrient to be paying attention to. So tofu is king.
Is all tofu made with added calcium?
Not all, but I believe I think it's most of the common brands within.
Probably like the Western made tofu is, definitely. But maybe not so much like say tofu made in somewhere in the back rural country of Indonesia.
Yeah, if they make it themselves. But I think it's probably the most common. If I've looked in databases and seen that most of the brands we stock in Australia are made by the same tofu producers. Right. Okay. And they do use calcium salts. So as long as you're buying it from Woolworths or Aldi or whatever, I don't know what you got in New Zealand.
Yes,
same thing.
Similar.
Yeah. Get it from those big stores, and it's going to be very nutritious.
So in a way, soy is almost like you could almost term it as a superfood, even though it's like,
if you want to use that term,
it's got some wondrous benefits, right? Like and there's very little downsides, if any. I remember hearing like Dr. Michael Greger talk about soy, and he said he even limited it to like below 5 servings a day or something like that. Do you think there's any case for actually limiting the amount per day?
I think limiting it from like a basis of getting variety in your diet is pretty important. And like the phytoestrogens in soy, they do act on estrogen receptors, so they do have an impact on our body. They don't act like estrogen, but they do have an impact on our body. So they can, if you're getting super high doses, like they do actually, supplement phytoestrogens in certain, for certain pharmaceutical benefits. So when you look at super high doses of, and getting 20 serves of tofu or something a day, or drinking 5 liters of soy milk, potentially that could have some sort of impacts. So just setting a reasonable limit of 4 to 5 serves a day, which is tons, which is plenty. You can have a couple glasses of soy milk, couple servings of tofu. It's enough that any person would normally consume. So there's no worries there. But if you for some reason did some strange soy experiment where you ate nothing but
the soy
4 liters of soy milk and 2 kilos or 5 pounds of tofu a day, potentially there might be some effects.
Well, so let's bring up that one case that people love to throw out there to combat the claims that soy is healthy. Is that one sort of anecdotal experiment of the guy who was like 60 years old? Consumed 3 liters of soy a day? And he developed man boobs.
But he also had some other chronic health conditions as well that were probably at play. And that's exactly, it's one person eating an absorbent amount, above the, 3 liters of soy milk is pretty much the equivalent of 12 servings of soy.
Right.
So, that's substantial, extreme case. And when you look at, certain things can happen when you eat ridiculous amounts of any foods. So, have you ever heard of like carotenoids? Carotene, beta carotene in carrots and orange vegetables. If you eat a ridiculous amount of high beta carotene vegetables like sweet potato or carrots, you can actually develop like an orange pigment in your skin, and it can potentially have impacts on your health as well. So
no need for Instagram filters.
You
get that orange tan look.
They're definitely the rage at the moment.
It is
orange filters and the you're guilty of it yourself. And the spotted story filter, retrocam.
Yes, retrocam. The other one's like coconut milk or something. Everyone's going with this. Yeah, it's good vibes. Okay, so I mean, we can almost, I guess, throw that out. That sort of one case of the guy developing man boobs, but I think that the big take home here is you've got to consume a variety of foods. You've got to have a well-balanced diet. If you're consuming more, like a huge amount of anything, there's maybe side effects. Like if you consume a kilo of broccoli, you're going to have some side effects in the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some issues with anything.
If you can get it into your body.
Right.
So filling, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's always a pro and a con to different foods, and anything in isolation can be an issue, right? But when it comes to soy, I think including it is part of a well-rounded, healthy diet with a focus on protein, nutrient density is going to be an incredible food to implement.
Yeah.
And just really quickly, so we can define a serving of soy, that would be, say, a cup, say 250 mils of soy milk.
Yeah.
As a serving.
Yeah.
Or 100 grams of tofu.
Yeah, maybe a bit more for tofu, 150 grams of tofu, maybe 100 grams of tempeh, 100 grams of, about 150 grams of edamame or whatever.
Yeah.
Trying to get too specific, but even thinking like 150 grams, like a third of a block of tofu, and a glass of soy milk, and similar for any soy containing food, just limited to about 150 grams.
Right. Yeah, and I would say that I would probably consume on most days probably 3 servings of tofu. Of soy.
Yeah.
And sometimes 4 to 5 servings if I'm having a
double tofu.
Yeah, if I'm having like 2 meals in a row that are both soy-based proteins, usually I'll mix it up. I'll have one meal that is a soy-based protein, like tofu or tempeh, and then the next meal might be a legume-based.
Yeah.
But then I'll have another meal that has 250 mils of soy milk in it. So I'm usually getting 2 to 4 servings per day, I would think.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that consistently for, I guess, two plus years.
And how are the man boobs?
Mate, they're growing strong.
They look quite firm, though.
Yeah,
they look quite firm.
Firm man boobs. Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of work on those.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So I think we've sort of smashed that one on the head pretty well.
Yeah.
All right. So some final points to bring up, bro. Let's talk a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
What are your plans for 2020?
So 2020, I was working as a personal trainer and a dietitian last year, and I've decided to put all of my efforts into working as a dietitian, where I feel that is, one of the most rewarding, and I enjoy it more in terms of the actual work-life balance of being able to work in a clinic and talk to people and help them with their nutrition. So I've working more clinically in different general practices, and working with patients referred from doctors to help with their chronic diseases, and then also growing the plant potential and working with a couple of other people in the online space. I'm a part of a team called the Vegan Health Hub. We produce nutrition balanced meal plans for vegan diet, and also do like custom meal plans, coaching, and sort of group challenges, group fat loss challenges, and that sort of thing. So I'm splitting my time now between working clinically and working in the online space. Keep putting out good nutrition information. Most of it's catered towards a plant-based clientele, but a lot of it's applicable to every human. Yeah, no, you guys are putting some real good content, especially the Vegan Health Hub page has got a lot of good infographics for people, and I often recommend that to people to check out. So it's definitely a cool one. And you're definitely you're into your training. As we know, we just finished up a bit of a session at Doherty's, bit of a pull session. What's your training look like currently? Have you got any sort of goals for the year? Physique goals, strength goals, adventure goals? What are you up to? Well, training for me has always been a part of my life. Whether I have specific goals at the time, or just using the gym as almost like a therapeutic effect of getting in the gym and feeling good afterwards, and just making it a part of my day. The main goal is now just train resistance based training. It's training I've always enjoyed. So muscle gain is probably on the cards, but I sort of don't stress too much, and I don't really have very concrete goals. It's more of just including in my life, and if other things come up where I'm engaging in other activities such as rock climbing or hiking or whatever it might be, different disciplines, yoga, whatever. Yeah. I'm pretty cruisy with just putting my current program to the side and engaging in these other activities. But yeah, so nothing too specific. Hopefully I can add an extra inch on the biceps and catch up to Jack's fitness.
It's a good way to be, man. A bit of variety in your training, and and being sort of fit for life. I like sort of applying it to my clients. I'm like, hey, look, if your goal is to just be able to do the things you want to do and not have to worry that you're not going to be fit enough to go on a climb, or you're not going to be able to, keep up with your friends, or keep up with the kids. But ensuring that some form of resistance training is a staple part of your life as well, to get the benefits from that. But it's always good to come and have a lift with you, brother.
Yeah, it's good. I love it when you come into town.
Yeah,
you should probably move here. I reckon. Should probably move.
Yeah, probably Melbourne is the spot I should be coming to, considering I come here 2-3 times a year anyway.
Yeah. It's only a short flight.
I have to bring Trooper over.
Yes. You put him in a little carry-on bag on the bench. Hide him in your jacket.
Yes. He's rather large now.
35 kilos. How big is he? Yeah.
He's actually only 23 kilos.
Oh,
I'm trying to put some weight on him.
He's lean.
Yeah. He was 24 at the vets the other day, so I was pretty happy we got
Put a bit more tofu in the bowl, mate.
Yeah, I know. We did get him on the soy.
Yeah.
Okay, brother. So, real quick, what are your views on growth in the veganism movement currently in 2020, 2019? How do you think it's going? What do you think the positives are? Do you think there's some negatives that we need to stop doing?
I think there's always going to be positive and negatives to any movement. There's people that take it a certain way and potentially may appear like they're being detrimental to the movement. People that are engaging in a lot of arguments and being very hateful to people who aren't seeing things their point of view. And also when it comes to a sort of really strict veganism for health, my way or the highway, you have to eat vegan or you're dying. I think that's almost detrimental, and it can lead to sort of very strict eating patterns, and potentially be damaging in that regard when it comes to more restrictive diets. Raw veganism, fruitarian diets can be often too restrictive and lead to micronutrient deficiencies. So I think that's one aspect, and then also just the sort of negative impacts of from a personal social point of view. So if you're somebody who is vegan and you take veganism to the point where you are disconnecting from your family and your friends because they're not seeing your point of view, I think that can be one downside to the movement. But I think there's a lot of positives now, especially with just more and more awareness of the sort of climate crisis or the climate change issues that we're facing. I think a lot of people it's becoming more common knowledge that our food system and our agricultural system is something that needs to change. Whether that's through more people adopting more plant-based diet, or if it's through more changes in the way that we grow food with cultured meat and more plant-based meats becoming more and more available. I think that's going to be a big thing where people they won't really have a choice whether or not to eat a more sustainable plant-based product, because it will become the norm. If it comes to the point where lab-grown meat is cheaper, it doesn't really involve the same degree of animal cruelty as factory farming, and it might become cheaper, more nutritious. It should hopefully become the norm, whether it's a matter of time or not. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's where I kind of see the movement going is more and more people can resonate with the environmental image, because that is something that affects all of us, whether or not you are affected by animals being in suffering. But I think everyone can relate to we need to protect this planet for ourselves. Yeah,
I think especially recently with the Australian bushfires.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going around about the environmental side, and it's bringing a lot of awareness, which is great. Even to the point of, there was a post shared with me the other day. It was comparing the number of deaths. It was 500 million animals perished in the fires, to date, probably more. But it was comparing that to
how many perish in animals.
2 days is the equivalent around the world of animals that are slaughtered for animal agriculture.
Yeah.
And I was shared that by a friend, and that really hit home for her. Which wouldn't have been brought to light without these things that are going on. It's bringing awareness to this issue, and I think the environmental side of things is something a lot of people can get on board with, and really start to create some change.
Yeah, and definitely even from the environmental side with this with these bushfires, it's kind of bringing to the forefront to all of these, more close-minded older generations, the boomers, even in politics, where there was, still a lot of people denying climate change even existing, up until the end of last year, and then these bushfires coming down, and they're sort of forced to engage in these discussions and engage with, science, climate scientists, and it's positive to hear that, politicians in Australia are recognizing the impacts of climate change on our country and the potential risk for more bushfires that have been really, really, really devastating to the Australians as a community and as as an economy. So hopefully this causes some bigger change politically. And I think even though Australia is quite a small country, I think we still have very important part to roll in terms of setting an example to other countries in terms of making more efforts to meet these climate changes to the way that we produce energy and resources and food and all this sort of thing. So hopefully it's from the really terrible things that have happened, hopefully there's some positive that comes out of it, and we're better prepared for the future in terms of climate change and for future bushfire seasons.
Yeah. No, I love it, bro. That's awesome. So let's finish up with some quick fire questions, my man.
Oh shit, yeah.
Always good fun. So you don't know what these are, but
I was gonna say that they weren't in the run.
They weren't in the run sheet, yeah. So 1 word answers, bro.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So favorite body part to train? Triceps. No wonder they're huge, huh? Is it actually triceps?
It could be. Yeah.
I find triceps, like the pump isn't as good
as what?
As biceps.
I feel the opposite.
So, oh really?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, we need to train together more.
Yeah.
We need to teach each other.
I've actually
This is one word answers for 10-minute conversation.
I've actually really reduced my bicep training over the last year.
Yeah, it shows.
Because it's just the diminishing, right?
Yeah.
It's just not something that I should be doing a lot of. Every curl for me is insane muscle activation. I've got crazy mind muscle connection.
Yeah, I don't have that.
That must be what you're feeling with triceps.
Yeah,
but I need to get on that bandwagon.
Tap into it.
I need some triceps. All right, where are we at? Favorite food. It's a big question, right?
It's too hard.
You need one food for the rest of your life.
Oh, that's even worse because you would just get sick of it. Shit! What do I look forward to most?
Yeah, what do you go to, man?
I love an Indian curry from time to time, and I also love just a dirty burger as well.
Yeah,
that's quite they're multiple ingredient foods. Is that
yeah?
So let's say a nice delicious lentil dal, and then maybe a really nice mock chicken
burger,
greasy burger. Yeah, that's my favorite. My go-tos.
Tofu or tempeh?
Tofu.
What?
Tempeh is too expensive.
Fair enough. Number 1 book someone should read.
Oh, Del Toro Quest? No. Yeah.
What?
It's like a childhood fantasy book that I read as a kid.
Oh, there you go.
That's a...
It can be
context.
It can be related to anything. It can be fiction, autobiography, can be something about health. Just something that people should read. Change your life.
Have you read Subtle Art of Not Giving a F?
I listened to the summary.
Yeah. I think it was a good summary of what most self-help books talk about.
Right.
And there's actually, some...
You got some gems out of it?
Yeah, I got some good... Kind of changed my way how I think about things. And even from a psychological aspect, it's, on point with in terms of how to frame things to deal with, tough times.
Yeah.
Mentally, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Yeah, I do I can't even remember the summary. I should listen.
Do you read many books like
that? Self-help ones?
Yeah. I don't really read many books, so
not a huge amount these days. I mean, I try to go back and forth between I love autobiography, so reading about someone's life.
Oh yeah.
But I'll sort of go back and forth between that and then maybe something that's more educational, what's the Atomic Habits? Something like that.
Yeah.
That I've
haven't read that.
Yeah, I've got that on the list to get through. And
I struggle to read those sorts of books. That's why Subtle Art was easy because it was quite short and easy to read.
Easy to read,
yeah, I prefer more fantasy, like Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah. That's super enjoyable to read.
Yeah.
Right now I'm reading something on investments and stocks and things. and
Socks or stocks.
Socks, yes.
Investments in stocks,
in woolly socks,
Yeah.
merino socks from New Zealand. No, it's actually
what's it called?
it's called The Simple Path to Wealth. Real simple title, real simple book to read. Like it's written.
Pass the keynotes to me when you.
Dude, it's actually really good because it's written to. He's writing to his daughter, like his teenage daughter.
Okay.
So it's easy to understand, but it's very detailed, and the guy's switched on.
Yeah.
It's not hard to implement either. So once I figure out what I'm doing with it, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
What are we up to? Oh, current go-to artist or song when training.
Oh, in training.
Yeah, I thought I'd put some context on it because otherwise it's like
It's too specific.
You can do one for training, one for just general if you like.
I haven't really been. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately.
Oh, you go.
But I was in the gym. I was listening to a lot of. I had like a angsty playlist, and then I was actually got back into. Have you ever heard of Suicide Boys?
Yeah.
Yeah, they get me in the mood when I'm training.
Dude, they got some good beats,
Yeah,
man. Like
really
when you're
aggressive sort of.
it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's really heavy. Yeah, this member came in and joined up the gym recently, and I was like, "What do you like to listen to?" Because they can control the music. He's like, Suicide Boys. I'm like, okay, what is that? Let's put it on right now. Like, so we like played it right now. I was like, okay, like this is heavy, and like I don't know about these lyrics, but hey, let's jam it out. Like it makes me want to train. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Man, what about so that's training.
Yeah, and then
What else?
outside of that, I don't know. This is tough. I have to cut down these videos from me thinking so much. Actually, the 1975 I've been jamming.
There you go.
And you've been putting them in your stories, and it's
There you go.
I've been jumping on Spotify. And
It's
listening
good,
to
eh?
it.
Yeah, man. I love the I love a few of their songs. I don't actually like all their stuff, but they have some really, really good songs that just fit for so many occasions, man.
Yeah. I was really into the 1975 is the name of the album.
Yep.
Like from a few years ago. I was playing that a lot when I was backpacking and hiking and stuff. I would play this album like front to back.
So now when you listen to it, does it bring back memes?
Yeah.
It's like nostalgic. It's
It's a strange vibe to be like in the mountains hiking too. But
yeah. Interesting.
It's a bit of fun just to keep me hiking. 20-kilometer hikes.
Keep you going.
Yeah.
All right. Top 3 Melbourne eats.
Top 3 Melbourne eats.
Yeah. If someone's coming to Melbourne, where are they going to go?
Yeah. We're going to go, especially if they're plant-based, we're going to go to Loving Hut. I don't know. We ate there.
We went to Loving Hut. Yeah. So they got a
Hut.
menu that's way too big and I can't decide what to eat.
Yeah. That's why you got to keep coming back. Vegan Shack's a good brunch spot. Oh,
good spot.
I think that's probably the most common. I do try different places. Like Veggie Bar is also pretty good. It's a bit overhyped, I believe.
I think it is, man.
Yeah.
I like the one that, like Veggie Bar, and then there's like Boys and Girls next door, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Ice cream parlor.
Yeah.
But they do like burgers and that's a spot.
Yeah, that's a good spot. Yeah. And there's another one near me called Black Waffle up in Northcote, which has a lot like eight dairy-free options.
All right.
And they're pretty badass.
Good. I have to try that out, man.
Yeah.
If you were to become an animal, what would you become? Last question.
A hawk. Always wanted to fly.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think
a gorilla?
I honestly think I usually answer hawk or like hawk or eagle.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're just like the most free. They're like this, I don't know, soul like out there just adventuring, you know.
Yeah. I've always just flying is the number one thing.
Fly. Yeah, you can fly.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say like gorilla. Like what's the most jacked? What's the most jacked animal?
Yeah, that would actually what I really want to be. Yeah. Sweet, man. That's pretty much all of our stuff to cover, bro.
Yeah.
So do you want to just finish up and we'll give you some plugs? You know, you can plug away and let everyone know where to find you and what you do.
Yeah, I think the number one like most active place, or the only place I'm really active is my Instagram at The Plant Potential. So
there you go.
The Plant Potential.
And for Kiwis, plant.
Plunt. PLUNT.
Yeah.
Plunt.
Put a PU and everything.
Yeah, that's probably, and then the Vegan Health Hub as well is a page that I contribute to.
Yep.
But if you follow me on Plant Potential, I'm sure they'll overlap. Yeah.
And if anyone wants to sort of check their diet and their nutrient intake and make sure they're getting everything covered, you can help them out there.
Yeah, definitely. I do still the online consultation. So you find me through Instagram and we can send me a DM and we can take you through there, or you can go through my website for more information, theplantpotential.com.
So good, man. Thanks for chatting, bro. It's been good.
No worries.
We'll hit up another one soon. I'll be back in Melbourne
Get another session.
in a few months. So I'll actually be back UEBC 2020.
Oh, yeah. I
July.
still haven't decided if I'm going or not yet.
Well, either way, bro. We'll link up. We'll link up.
All right, nice.
Solid.
Hasta luego.
Okay, guys. So how good was that? Jacob McGinness, Plant Potential. A lot of good information there. Please go hit him up at the Plant Potential on Instagram. And if you do want to get a consultation with him, I highly recommend it. He can run through your micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, make sure you're getting everything you need. And then, you might want to go and take that step further and get a blood test as well, just to check on where you're at. But Jacob can point you in the right direction there. The last thing I want to say, guys, is if you really are on with what we're doing here at Vegan Body Coach, please screenshot this on your phone, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the podcast app, whatever it is you're listening to, Spotify. Screenshot it, share it to your Instagram story, and tag us in it, so that we can get this information out to more and more people, and sort of dispel some myths and show people exactly how a plant-based diet can be done to a high level. And that's all we need. All the best. See you in episode 3.